Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Web State of the Union. I'm Ben Galbraith, the product lead on the Chrome team.
And I'm Malte, engineering lead for the AMP project.
In this talk, we're going to share with you Google's perspective on the state of the web, and we're going to highlight what we're excited about.
And we'll talk through the exciting latest developer tools, libraries, and frameworks we're working on to make you more productive.
We've got a lot to cover in this session, so let's dive right in.
Let's go. The web has special meaning for us at Google because our core mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible depends on an open ecosystem like the web. So it's incredibly important for us that the web is healthy and thriving.
And the web's evolved dramatically over the past few years, gaining significant new APIs and capabilities.
Probably the most important API introduced to the web in the last 10 years is the service worker. Since the beginning of the web, it's been about pages that user request and the browser renders. But the service worker changes that, introduces a brand new top-level abstraction that goes beyond what a page can do. Receiving events like push notifications, handle data synchronization, even after the page has gone away, and letting you take control of networking so you can make robust offline web pages. Service worker have been in a good amount of browsers for a while, but now they're basically everywhere. With Apple rolling out support in Safari on iOS and macOS this March, and super hot off the press, Microsoft shipped service workers last week. Without now every single major modern browser supports the standard.
This is a huge moment for the web. We're really excited about it. So we've been using the term progressive web app to help explain all these new improvements, and the gradual rollout of service worker illustrates the importance of the progressive bit here. Because PWAs that are written progressively to take advantage of browser features as they become available can seamlessly upgrade with no need to redeploy. So PWAs are now everywhere, and I want to share a few examples. Let's start with Ofo, a global bike-sharing company, which I hear's coming to the Bay Area soon.
Another one, is that right?
You can never have too many, Malte. And their brand new PWA uses your device's GPS to locate the nearest bike and your camera to scan the bike's QR code to unlock it, all directly in the browser. And that's it. You can start riding the bike. I love this example because it shows the power of the web's low-friction model. You skip all the steps of finding an app in the store and installing it. So Mother's Day is coming up next week.
Uh-oh.
I guess it makes 1-800-Flowers a timely mention. They're a global gift and flower delivery service, and after they shipped their new PWA, 50% more of their customers bought things on their site, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Let's also take a look at Editora Globo, part of the largest media company in Brazil. After they upgraded their site, they saw a 50% increase in time that users are spending on their site.
Starbucks is another great example. They recently rolled out their PWA and saw the daily and monthly active users double. And because this site works well on desktops, users can order ahead from their desk. And somewhat to their surprise, Starbucks found that this is actually something users want.
So these are just a few examples, but it turns out across all sites that advertise with Google, we've seen that upgrading to a PWA delivers an average 20% boost to the website's conversion rate. That's 20% more people who wind up transacting on the site as a result. So this PWA movement that we've been talking about isn't just lip service. All of these new modern web capabilities deliver a materially better user experience, and it shows up in the bottom line of the businesses that we've all built on the web.
All right, Ben, since we are at Google I/O, I thought it would be kind of a good idea to talk about how Google itself is doing in the PWA space, right? I think that kind of makes sense. So let's start with our arguably most important web application, Google Search. Turns out the search result page is now backed by a service worker. It makes it both load faster and more reliably. All in all, reduces JavaScript download by users by a whopping 50%. And that, in turn, reduces interactions delayed by not having the JS around by 6%. At the scale of search, that's a huge win for user experience. The service worker enables a whole category of new features. If you don't have the service worker around, when you make a search and you're offline, you just get an error message, right? With a service worker, you get a friendly message that a push notification will notify you when you're back online and the search result is ready.
So let's go from our original service to one of our newest, Bulletin. They've got a PWA, and it's another great example of the low friction of the web, because their use case is all about helping people capture time-sensitive local news events right as they unfold, so you can get right into the site, into the action, without any install friction. And because the web is cross-platform, the Bulletin team has a super efficient development story because they can get to desktop, Android, iOS, and more with a single progressive product and code base.
Another interesting case study comes from our Maps team. They built a version of their app designed for low-cost devices that are gaining traction in some of the web's fastest-growing markets, like India. The map is called Maps Go, and it's a progressive web app using Service Worker, Add to Home Screen, and other features. It's optimized for low network usage, so that it's better for regions that have unreliable networks, and even more important, it costs less money to use when your connection is metered.
Let's talk about media. It's a really important use case on the web. In fact, it represents 15% of all time spent in Chrome on Android, and 20% on Chrome for desktop, and over 30,000 years of video are watched daily in Chrome worldwide. I think there's actually just maybe my kids alone, I'm not sure, maybe. So a bunch of media-specific work has been happening on the platform. First, the platform's gained a bunch of new media features, like the Media Session API that gives you integration with lock screen controls on the device. And the media sharing site Vimeo is an example of a developer who just recently integrated this and sees strong usage, especially for longer media types. There's the Media Capabilities API that exposes rich stats about your device so you can make intelligent choices about which stream to use. There's picture-in-picture support, which we're showing here. This works across desktop and mobile devices. And there's the new Presentation API that allows you to explicitly control what you show on secondary displays. And let's talk about offline support for a minute. It's a major use case for many parts of the world with limited access to reliable high-bandwidth connections. And so the large Indian media property, Voot, as well as Globo, are enabling the new web offline media APIs into their sites. And there's a new next-generation, open, royalty-free codec coming. It's called AV1. We've developed it in partnership with over 30 major media and tech companies, and it provides 30% better compression over the earlier VP9 codec. So this is going to have a big impact, and it's shipping in Chrome later this year. OK, so we've been focused on mobile, but now I want to talk about desktop for a minute, because it's an audience that remains in the billions. And productivity web apps like G Suite continue to grow. And as we saw with Starbucks, even mobile-focused experiences are finding big traction when they come over to desktop. So we're starting to take mobile lessons over to the desktop platform. And one of the things we're doing is adding support for Add to Home Screen to desktop Chrome, so that once you install a PWA on the desktop, it gets its own icon and its own top-level window. So finally, you can use Alt-Tab or Command-Tab, if you like, to get to those windows, which is something I've wanted for a long time. And because this window is powered by the full Chrome browser, you also get access to Chrome's browser affordances like autofill. So these new desktop PWA features are available in beta in Chrome OS today, and they'll ship to everyone in June, and will follow with Windows and Mac later this year. I'm also a big Spotify fan, so I'm excited about this next bit. They're shipping support for desktop PWA features, and you can experience it now on Chrome OS. I think it's a great fit, because the web gives music fans a fast and convenient way to get right into Spotify and listen to their favorite songs, and their desktop PWA is a rich client that allows for playback of music and podcasts, and it has Google Cast and Spotify Connect support for remotely playing music, either through speakers or other devices, or through Spotify apps that are running, and you can get right into it. And it's an app class experience with no installation hurdles or app updates to manage.
Well, that's Spotify PWA is cool, but let's talk about something even more exciting, email. You know, I'm a manager now. I spent like half my life in Gmail, and absolutely love the new upgrade and super awesome Gmail that we recently announced. Gmail was basically the original web app, and now it's an awesome desktop PWA with Service Worker-based offline mode. These new PWA features set up to be a true top-level window. Like Ben said, you can alt-tab to it and basically treat it like any other app running on your operating system. And so the boundaries between websites and apps are blurring on desktop as well.
So while we're talking about the desktop web, there's another example I want to share. AutoCAD. So AutoCAD popularized computer-aided design since its initial release in 1982, and it continues to innovate today. I think there's an estimated 2 to 5 million AutoCAD drawing files opened every day, and billions of them are stored in cloud-hosted file services. So using the web is a great fit to create a viewer for these types of files. They set out to create a web-based editor about 8 years ago, but they found that their complex, optimized code base was impractical to rewrite in JavaScript. So enter WebAssembly. It's a new web standard that enables high-performance execution of compiled code right in the browser, and it gives this code access to web APIs. So this opens up a bunch of interesting new use cases for the web, like enabling large C and C++ code bases, running performance-sensitive code right in the browser, such as a media codec, and it enables a whole new class of games on the web. In fact, Unreal and Unity, which are really popular gaming engines, can both target WebAssembly, and using WebGL, you can do high-performance 3D gaming. And the best part is that WebAssembly is available today across the major modern browsers in mobile and desktop. This is the first time in the history of the web that we've had a broadly available alternative to JavaScript, cross-browser.
I think there's another really big moment of the web, actually.
So let's get back to AutoCAD. They launched a new web app in March that was able to take their 35-year-old code base that's literally older than the web itself.
It's also kind of older than me, almost.
I'm not sure which aged better, to be honest with you. But, and they were able to bring it to the web using WebAssembly. And AutoCAD is now universally accessible on all devices instantly. So if you're away from your workstation, you can make edits to your CAD drawings regardless of the device or operating system. And their engineering team now has a shared C++ code base, so as they make changes, they're easily integrated into that web app. So WebAssembly in Chrome is powered by V8, our JavaScript engine, so it's a good time to talk about JavaScript performance. We've continued our focus on optimizing for real-world websites. And in partnership with the community, we created a new benchmark called Speedometer 2. So this measures browser and JavaScript performance in a web app that's been re-implemented in over a dozen web frameworks. And we're pleased to share that over the past year, our performance on the score has dramatically improved, including a 112% improvement with React, with significant performance gains across other frameworks, as you can see.
Let me just try to rephrase that really quick. Your React apps will now run twice as fast compared to a year ago on the same hardware. I think that's really amazing.
So in addition to all this, V8 has implemented support for a bunch of powerful new modern JavaScript features, so be sure to check out the talk for more details.
As a web developer, I'm incredibly excited with the next topic. Who here has ever put together a web page with like Chrome DevTools and later found out it doesn't quite work the same way in other browsers? Right? That sometimes happens. I think like 15 years ago, we developed for IE, and then it didn't work in Firefox. Browsers change, but the problem of subtle browsing capabilities never really has. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. In your own project, do you have like unit tests or integration tests? And if you don't, right, you probably kind of feel bad about it. The web has never had anything like that. So I'm incredibly excited that automated tests for web standards are finally a thing. These automated tests are shared amongst browsers to validate our implementations, ensuring that when new features like service work come out, we minimize cross-browser capabilities and inconsistencies. And things are actually getting better. Browsers are working hard to becoming more compatible. And we want to especially thank the countless volunteers who are helping with web compatibility. As you can see in this chart, the number of web features on only one browser is going down over time. At the same number, the number of features on all major engines is constantly going up. There's a lot of work to do, but we're excited that things are going on the right track.
OK, so we're going to shift gears now and move on from talking about the web platform to the tools, libraries, and frameworks that we're working on here at Google to make web development more productive. Let's get started with the tool that we ship to every Chrome user worldwide, Chrome's own DevTools. Millions of developers use this every single day, and it keeps getting better and better. Please welcome Paul Irish, who's here to give us a taste of what's new this year.
Woo! All right. Thank you. Thanks, Ben. All right. So it's 2018, right? The world is asynchronous. And when we're debugging, we can't necessarily step through code line by line. Like, we have timers and promises and network activity to contend with. So the Chrome DevTools have transformed to adapt to this new asynchronous world as well. So let me show what it was like a year ago. We have this little function, set timeout with console log within it. And we'll just take a look at what happens. So this is Chrome from a year ago, and I want to step into the console, into the set timeout to pause in the console log. But when I hit step into, we step past it. This is not really what you want. But in today's Chrome, we have the same code. We step in, and we jump into the invocation in the set timeout. And again, now we're paused right on that log method point. So this is what we expect when we hit set timeout, right? Set timeout, like stepping, debugging, this should match our expectations of being in this asynchronous world. So I've showed this with set timeout, but you can expect the same kind of debugging upgrades when you work with web platform features like promises, post message, web workers, and more. So speaking of features, the web platform evolves quickly, right? Now, as it evolves, we as developers have to feel comfortable with the new APIs, the new objects, and how our code interacts. And the console has always been kind of our home base for that exploration. So I'm excited to share with you a brand new DevTools feature that I think revolutionizes how we interact with the console. We call it eager evaluation. And the best way to explain it is with a demo. So let's do that. Let's switch over to my machine right here. OK, so I got this little code right here. We have a regular expression. We're going to call exec on it. We have a string. Let me just finish off this string. Thanks. All right. Now, as I finish off everything, watch this. Now, I didn't hit enter yet, but I'm already getting the result of this evaluation. The cool thing is, we're going to update this as we type. So let me go over here. Will this even work if I change this to using like parens around the? No. OK, well, no. So the regular expression is a little brittle. I'll admit it. All right, OK. But I do see, OK, the 0 to 9 range. We could actually improve this. Actually, all three of them. Let's just select all three, and we'll just replace it with /d. And yeah, OK, looks like we're still pulling out the same stuff, so that's good. All right, and the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to pull the area code out of this phone number right here. So while we have these multiple cursors, let's just go ahead and add some capture groups to the regular expression. All right, boom, 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 capture, capture, capture. So area code is 1. All right, sweet. So in a few short moments, we've explored an API, found a bug, made an improvement, and got the result that we were looking for. It's pretty awesome. All right, let's switch back to the slides. So really, that demo is just a taste. Eager evaluation enables you to work with all sorts of JavaScript language features, DOM APIs, your own JavaScript code. And the really powerful thing about it is that you can guarantee there will be no side effects. And the way that we enable this is that we introduce a new mode in V8 where we attempt to evaluate some JavaScript. And if we know that it's about to cause a side effect that will change the outside state, we just bail. So speaking of V8, we've been working hard to bring the same DevTools experience from the back end, from the front end to the back end by making it a great tool for Node.js. So grab yourself a recent build of Node, and you can use the same feature set on the server that you do normally on the client. OK, so we have covered a lot of ground in this. If you'd like to see more, check out the DevTools talk, where we'll be diving deeper into all of this. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. So if you didn't notice on the slide, Paul's session starts bright and early tomorrow, but is really worth the effort to get an early start. Encourage you to attend. OK, I want to talk about another feature of DevTools called Lighthouse. This gives you clear guidance on how your website can be improved in categories such as performance, accessibility, capabilities, and more. And people are actually using this. So far this year, over 500,000 developers have used it to analyze over 2 million pages. So we're working hard to make Lighthouse better. And this year, we're launching a new version, 3.0, with a refined UI and higher quality insights. And we're announcing a new Lighthouse API to bring these insights into your workflow and to enable integration with other tools and platforms. Lighthouse generates some great insights, but in the real world, there are a host of variables that can influence how your site actually performs, like variable network conditions or the different devices that people are using. And so late last year, we launched the Chrome User Experience Report to help with this. It contains real-world performance data showing how Chrome users are experiencing over 4 million global domains. So you can analyze this data set yourself using the free BigQuery tool, or we've also integrated it into our Page Speed Insights tool, which is the easiest way to use some of this data to see your performance. And you can also compare yourself to your competitors, which can be very motivating. OK, so we also introduced the Puppeteer open source project last year. This is a Node.js library for controlling the headless version of Chrome, giving you programmatic access to its rendering engine and to its dev tools. This project is on fire. with over 3 million installs, and it's used by over 600 NPM projects. So I mean, who knows? Maybe that syntax highlighter you just installed brought it along for the ride. You never know with these things. Most important of all, it has 30,000 GitHub stars.
That's actually the most important thing.
Is that why? I think it may be, actually. I don't know. So it went 1.0 in January, and it opens up a bunch of interesting use cases to integrate Chrome into your developer workflow. We're also releasing a new version of our Workbox library. This makes common service worker scenarios significantly easier. With it, you can transform code like this, which is about creating a cache for CSS files, into this.
I think Workbox is maybe the most underrated library from Google. If you're thinking about making a service worker, I'd really recommend to start with Workbox. It's incredibly easy instead of rolling your own.
OK, so if done poorly, sign up and sign in can be a big friction point for users. So our new one-tap sign up and auto sign in library, currently in early access, can drive really big impact.
Wait, is that actually the name?
Well, I mean, naming is one of the hardest problems in computer science, right? So, I mean, yeah, that is the name. But this library, it does create a truly one-tap sign-up experience. There's no typing, there's no identity provider to remember, and there's no password to create. And so when users return to your site, they can sign back in really easily. It works by drafting off of the existing sign-in that the user has on the device with a Google property, like Gmail, and it's based on the Credential Manager web standard. There are a few examples I want to share here of where the benefits come in. First, Redfin, a real estate company here in the US, saw an 80% increase in signups after implementing the one-tap library. And Trivago, one of the world's leading hotel search engines operating in 55 countries, saw a 2x increase in user sign-ins after using the library. So payments is another area where some optimization can go a long way. And we've just recently made Google Pay available on the web.
No, that's a good name.
Well, it took us a while to get there. But you can easily use this to accept payments from users who have cards saved to their Google account, and it works seamlessly across platforms and global regions, anywhere that you have users signed in to Google. And platforms like Shopify now let you integrate with Google Pay with a single click. All right, I want to talk about web components. We're a big fan of this. It's a set of APIs that let you build your own reusable, encapsulated components using primitives that are baked into the web platform itself. And it's only been in the past few months that web components now have native support in major browsers, and there are polyfills to reach all of them. So they give you a really interesting way to create nice, reusable chunks of code that you can pass around, and you can create them with just about every major framework. We created a website called Custom Elements Everywhere with up-to-date compatibility information on many of the modern frameworks. And Preact, Vue, and many others are now entirely compatible with the core tests. And our own Angular team just released Angular Elements, a first-class way to use web components within an existing Angular app. And speaking of web components, we created the Polymer project to help you build web components, whether to help your own team achieve reuse or to create custom elements for other developers. And this week, the Polymer team is releasing the next major version, 3.0, which adds support for ES modules and NPM, so it now works seamlessly with your favorite tools and frameworks. And the Polymer team is also unveiling a few cutting-edge new products here at I/O that are focused on creating fast-loading and tightly optimized web apps. One of these is lit-HTML. It's a small 3-kilobyte rendering library that uses the latest ES6 features that enables a web app to perform fast, efficient updates to the DOM, which gives you a really snappy user interface. And using this library, you can create really compact web components in terms of file size that work directly alongside your existing web components or other framework elements. It's a great example of leveraging the modern web platform to make your development easier and your apps more efficient.
Ben, I think it's fair to say that you just went through a lot of stuff, which actually kind of brings me to the next topic. Talking to developers, one message comes up over and over again, which is like, hey, Chrome team, you keep pushing out like all these awesome new features at I/O, talk about them, and but frankly, it's a bit overwhelming, and we're kind of lost on what to do. And obviously, this may not be many of you here, right? Web works great for experts among us who like to dive deep on topics. But not everyone is like that. Not every company can necessarily afford to always be up to date with the absolute latest capabilities and best practices. And if you start out with an expert team, your project might eventually be maintained by people with less context. It's important for performance to remain stable as your web app ages. I think we need to recognize for the web to be truly open and inclusive, we must bring these folks along as well and allow them to build great experiences. And I think that is where the project that I work on, AMP, comes in, and it fills an important niche. As a super short summary, AMP is a web component library and ecosystem for building reliably fast websites with great user experience. By encapsulating best practices and providing automated guidance towards success, AMP enables a vast range of publishers to deploy great user experience at incredible scale. Let's take a look at that scale really quick. Currently now there's over 6 billion AMP pages across 56 million domains, and most importantly, they continue to load in well under 1 second measured from Google search at the median. This translates into business success. Overstock.com saw a 36% increase in revenue on their AMP pages. Indian marketplace ShopClues saw a 29% increase in conversions, and Chinese news site Tencent News saw a 2x increase in time on site and a 40% decrease in bounce rate. Talking about AMP in e-commerce, maybe my favorite example is AliExpress. They went all in on AMP. They use it for their homepage, for the detailed pages, category pages on their own. And then they back it with a service worker to turn it into a progressive web app. And they have seen some great results. Now, AMP is sometimes seen as a technology specific to Google search. This is a metric that specifically filters out traffic from Google search, and they saw a 31% increase in conversion rate. And another important thing, they've been using it successfully in AdWords as well. So if you are making AMP pages, make sure to also tie them to your AdWords account. As I've mentioned earlier, we're really focusing on enabling a bigger set of publishers to create great experiences on the web. AMP Stories is such a project. Because content consumption on mobile is changing. Bite-sized, full-screen storytelling formats are becoming more popular every day. But this development happens almost exclusively in native apps. The web is literally the best platform to build these, and it certainly has all the capabilities needed to create such content, but the technical investment that each single publisher would have to make to implement them is often prohibitive. And so they're drawn to these walled gardens that make things easy end to end. With AMP Stories, when publishers capture this emerging trend of storytelling, they'll be able to publish on their own website with minimal technical investment. And so we created AMP Stories, a set of web components for rich storytelling on the mobile web. They have great support for vertical video, animations, and tabbable interactions. And while they're designed for mobile, they work great on desktop as well. Now, obviously, AMP Stories is a pretty radical shift. We're trying to progressively enhance the plain old web page. So we constantly work at implementing best-in-class features as easy-to-use web components that can be added to any document with minimal effort. This includes stuff like parallel scrolling, immersive light boxes, and things like videos that stay on the screen as you scroll. Well, our goal, to summarize, to get these behaviors added to as many web pages as possible to make sure that the web continues to make user expectations. All right, so I think this can be summarized as a lot of exciting stuff coming to AMP. But it did want to touch on a different angle. We realized that AMP isn't for everyone. Being opinionated naturally comes with limitations, which is not the right tool for the job. And also being opinionated means that some people have different opinions. Let's say your opinion is, I don't want to use AMP.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard anyone say that.
Right? Sometimes happens. And if you think that's great, that's what the web is all about. And we're committed to make it happen. Let's take a look at the core features that AMP brought to the web experience. Reliable user experience, instant loading, and what we call seamless navigation. I think the first two kind of explain themselves. We talk about the last one, seamless navigation, later in this presentation. We want to enable platforms such as Google Search to provide the same innovative experience as they do for AMP today for all pages on the internet that implement a new set of web platform standards. So if you rather not use AMP, that's super cool. You still get access to the placement capabilities. Let's take a look at some of the factors that play into the standards-based version of the AMP experience. As I mentioned earlier, AMP pages load in median and well under 1 second. With the Chrome User Experience Report, there's now a public data set that shows how fast a particular web page loads. So we're planning to use that data to find web pages that meet or exceed the benchmarks set by AMP. But load time isn't everything. For example, a web page that loads super quickly but isn't actually interactive because JavaScript blocks the main thread does not provide a great user experience. So we're developing a new set of metrics that in combination reflect the more holistic spectrum of the experience the user has when they visit a page. Another feature that AMP brought to the web was privacy-preserving instant loading. We want to explain really quick what that means. To achieve instant loading, you need to download a resource before the user clicks, because otherwise the network will always be in the way and things won't quite be instant, especially on mobile. With link rel prefetch and link rel prerender, the web actually had built-in methods for this. But it turns out that naive prefetching can sometimes not be what a user expects in terms of privacy. because now the owner of a page is prefetched might be able to, for example, set a cookie and later send you ads based on that, although you never actually ended up going to the page. AMP's implementation of instant loading does not have this problem. And now we want to bring the same privacy-friendly features to the wider web. That is where an emerging web standard called web packaging comes in. Web packaging allows you to bundle up your web content, allow other parties to distribute it on behalf of you, while keeping the integrity guarantees of HTTPS. It has a bunch of awesome applications, like faster JavaScript loading, and we think it could actually form the missing primitive behind a more decentralized web. And then finally, it allows for the same privacy-preserving instant loading for all content on the web that provides web packages. It also has one very AMP-specific benefit, because those pesky google.com/AMP that you don't like, I don't like, nobody likes, they're going away with web packaging. We couldn't be more excited. All right, I talked about how this web packaging standard is still very new, but we actually implemented it in Chrome. You can try it behind a flag today. My team has built an open source tool to create the packages. The Google Search team has built a prototype that works with the packages. And then finally, we worked with 2 companies, Food Network and Pinterest, to actually make web packages for their content. To give you an impression about how this all works together, please welcome on stage Ludo from Pinterest.
Thanks, Malte. At Pinterest, our focus is to help people around the world discover and do the things they love. We wanted to create a seamless experience on the mobile web that puts the right content in front of our users, enabling them to take full advantage of discovering content and browsing Pinterest without the friction of slowed load times or having to redirect to the app. This is why we're really excited to showcase how we're using AMP, PWA, and web packaging today in the product. So to do that, let's start with a simple search and switch to the demo. So I have a 5-year-old at home. She loves to make things, and so I'm looking for some spring craft ideas for her. So here you see that when I click on the AMP page, it loads really fast, and even though we are on an AMP page, you'll notice that the URL says Pinterest.com. This is made possible by the web packaging technology that enables us to publish signed content that then can be served directly from the Google's cache. It also is a big win for the privacy of our users, as all of their actions are now contained within the Pinterest.com origin. So from here, I'll find a cool idea, and now you see that when I click on that, I was very seamlessly transitioned into the Pinterest PWA app. From here, I can take more rich actions, like save this to my board. Oh. But more importantly, also, once I'm on our PWA app, then I can add Pinterest to the home screen, and from there, show all the cool ideas that I have collected for my daughter so that we can do them together. So at Pinterest, we're committed to making world-class experience for our users. We were the first platform at scale that enables AMP, and we've been able to shave over 70% of load times for our users, over billions of pages, and for millions of users. This is, in a nutshell, how our mobile web experience is evolving to help people around the world find inspiration. Thank you.
Thanks, Ludo, for the awesome demo. To summarize, web packaging allows for privacy-preserving instant loading of web content. It does not depend on any particular technology like AMP to work. As I said earlier, the standard is still being finalized. It is not ready to ship. We do expect significant changes based on input from other browser vendors and the web community. But meanwhile, we're building out the infrastructure for all of you to be able to make web packages. Stay tuned for announcements later this year. Summarizing AMP. Publishers, merchants, and advertisers across the globe are seeing amazing success using AMP as the foundation of their PWAs and websites. If you already have AMP pages, check out the huge set of new web components to super easily enhance the user experience. We'd love you to use AMP if you'd like to benefit from Google's expertise and help to create great web apps. But through technologies like web packaging and advanced metrics, we bring AMP's core benefit like instant loading and reliable user experience to the wider web.
It's great to see what's happening with AMP. And throughout this talk, we've highlighted examples where the web connects users right to content without any installation steps. We see this low-friction model of web links as being akin to a superpower of the platform. As Malte mentioned, web packaging is a really exciting emerging standard for a bunch of reasons. And I'm really glad that AMP's able to use it to resolve URL issues, But I think there's a bigger opportunity here for web packaging to help the web lean into this superpower and to go from fast load times to no load times whatsoever, and to do it for the entire platform, not just AMP. So what would this kind of truly instant, friction-free experience actually look like? We'd like to show you a prototype.
Here's a demo that the Google image team is exploring. So imagine you search for something, Google image search, and you click one of the results, right? And you go to the enlarged image, right? That makes sense. But how do you go to the web page where the image came from? Today you have to click that little button. You might do that, you might also not do that. What if instead you could simply scroll to the page instead? We think that with this experience, there would be a significant higher number of people actually move on to the next page, which would be amazing for publishers of web content and a great user experience as well. All right, this was of course just one example, but we're super excited to rethink how navigation on the web could work to truly make the web the most seamless and frictionless experience on mobile.
Okay, we are running out of time, so we should wrap up with the takeaways for the talk. The web presents a fantastic, compelling business opportunity for all of us. So use our insights tools, like Lighthouse, to understand where your site is falling short, where you have opportunity to get better, and upgrade your site using the latest web platform features.
Use AMP to easily create rich content and commerce experience and get consistently high quality results.
And use our other libraries and frameworks like Workbox, Polymer, and Angular for more general use cases.
And now go make the future.
But speaking of the future, please join us this November at the Chrome Dev Summit in San Francisco, where we're going to gather as a community to talk more about the path forward for the web. You can sign up at this URL for more information, and we hope to see you there. Finally, thank you for attending the talk today. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks.